It's been 3 weeks since you were looking for your friend, the one who let you hit it and never called you again. Remember when he told you about the Benjamins? You act like you ain't hear him, then give him a little trim. Hello, good people. Welcome to Off the Deep End, a Deep Listens podcast where we explore role-playing video games in depth. My name is Jeff Rude, the host and the computer, the golf of this operation. Joining me, we have, as always, the Horror House Part 2, Braden, Arbitrary Water Redacted. Hello, Braden.
Hello. I am here to party and push blocks.
Here to get down.
And I'm all out of party.
Also joining us, as usual, we have your very own private stripper. It's Chris, Zombie Pie Redacted. Hello, Chris.
Drasle me, daddy ass.
Just stellar stuff to kick this off. For those of you who aren't familiar with the entire back catalog of Nihon Falcom, you may have picked up from context clues that we're going to be talking about Legacy of the Wizard in this episode. Did you know that Legacy of the Wizard, it was developed by Falcom, and it was published by Falcom, originally as Dragon Slayer 4, Drasle Family. This was released on July 10th, 1987 in Japan on the MSX2 platform. Only a week later, it came out on the Famicom, published by Namco. 2 years later, this was released in North America, published by Bruderbund in May 1989, where it was changed in name to Legacy of the Wizard. That's where we find it today. It's available on some digital platforms, oddly enough, which is kind of weird. I guess we'll talk about that. And other topics. Like to be a part of talking about other topics. A way you can do that is to get onto a Discord that we have. How do you get into that Discord? Well, it's quite easy, folks. Go to patreon.com/deeplistens. That's patreon.com/deeplistens. Any dollar amount that you kick into that Patreon will get you access to that Discord. And you can talk to me, yell at me, you can correct me, all sorts of stuff. Just bend me, shake me, any way you want me. That's what I'm saying. However, we've changed the deal somewhat. You want to put a game on a slush pile. If there's an RPG that you think this merry band of idiots should look at, we used to just let you in for any old amount. That deal is now changed. We want 3 bones out of you. We'll even let you throw in a second one if you've already contributed, thanks. If you up that to $3, you put another one on that list. And we will be drawing from that in alternating episodes throughout the year. I've decided. Because I am the decider, like so many former presidents. In any event, if you think that's a bad idea, or if you have other complaints, or questions, or prayer concerns, and don't like Discord, you can send those to inquiries@deep.lol. That is inquiries@deep.lol, the vanity URL that will not die. Finally, if you'd like to see the fruits of our labors, we have a special list. bit.ly/OTDE rank is the full URL, and it will show you a tasty Google Doc. Gentlemen, it's been holiday times. How are you doing?
Is this basically a serendipitous way to ask us about our streams, or just asking us vibe check?
Life?
Yeah, I noticed that both of you were alive, so presumably yes. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, sure. I've had some stuff, health-related, that I won't go into detail, but I ended up getting my first cold. Not COVID, just a cold. And it made me realize this whole getting sick thing kind of sucks. Like, just living as a hermit, isolated, taking the time to, like, worry about things like wearing masks and social distancing prevented me from getting sick for about 2 years. Anyways, I'm still here, Jeff, marveling over this recently found Zork 1 OST port for the PS1 that was done by the Streets of Rage 2 and 3 team, Sans Yuzu Koshiro. It is a lot to take in. Zork, you're getting eaten by a grue while you listen to disco funky beats.
It is what they were going for, clearly.
Other than that, cool. How we all doing? Braden, how you doing?
Oh, school. Well, yeah, school has just started again for me. This semester will likely be less stressful than last semester, and I'm very excited to play more role-playing games in depth. Not this one, though.
No.
I've decided, Jeff, you don't follow my idiot stream, so you don't know this. I've decided to play fewer bad video games on stream.
It's a betrayal of his audience. It's a betrayal. Braden played one Sonic game. He didn't like the final boss, and now he's all saying, I'm too high class for bad games. That's for ZP.
I played through
ZP
all of Sonic Unleashed for the Xbox 360 on my Xbox Series S, and I think that game is quite poor.
Oh, is it? Is it as poor as Tong Nu Eastern Mines or Hell, a cyberpunk thriller?
No.
Or Thayer's Quest?
If you play fucking Thayer's Quest, I'm not going to be held responsible for what happens afterwards.
That sounded very ominous.
He's going to play it and he's going to be like, fuck, this is terrible. Why did I play this? And then he'll play the entire thing, and that will be roughly 6 hours of my life watching him struggle.
I feel like I've sent you both different game ideas in DMs kind of recently.
Yeah, let's talk about how Jeff sent me a recommendation that is softcore pornography.
Wait, which one?
Bazooka Sue?
Oh, yeah. Props to the individual who runs the Bad Game Hall of Fame, Cassidy. They put up an article about Lula 3D somewhat recently. Yeah, that thing. Which I was kind of familiar with. That game, A, I guess is an adventure game. B, sure goes places. But part of a lineage of games that started basically with something called Bazooka Sue, which seems incredible. Not as incredible as Lula 3D. Lula 3... I'm trying to think, after reading that article, what the closest game to Lula 3D might be. The only thing that comes to mind is Indigo Prophecy. Or Fahrenheit, I guess, if you're in other territories. Like, imagine if Fahrenheit was worse. I really hate that game.
Yeah, I've played Beyond Two Souls, Jeff.
I played Indigo Prophecies, and as a kid, being like, "Oh my god, I pressed the buttons in time, and then Matrix happened."
So cool.
If I replayed it,
remember how Elliot Page just gets treated like absolute dog shit, and also the camera ogles him in this very creepy way throughout that entire game? Yeah. I love adventure games.
Remember how David Cage has a problem of depicting women in states of undress in their most vulnerable states to create a sense of vulnerability of the female actors in his video game?
That's not fair, Chris. David Cage doesn't have any problem with that at all. That's... God, that dude sucks. Anyway...
I would say if you wanted like a comparable game to Lula 3D, I always felt like the comparison was Leisure Suit Larry box office bust.
Yeah. Yuck. Yuck.
No, thank you.
Your tale about getting a cold reminds me of this is gospel. Hand on my copy of Neil Gaiman's myths and legends of like the Norsemen or whatever. I threw up in 2015.
Okay, I love where this is going. Okay.
I threw up in 2015 once, and that is the only time I've thrown up since probably elementary school. I have been told that I am basically a rat by someone who loves me, by the way. Editor's note. If you notice the music in this game is okay, that is because it is by Yuzo Koshiro of Streets of Rage 2 fame. You'll notice that we don't bring this up during this episode. That is because we are 3 very silly boys.
Nihon Falcom, makers of fine video games.
Yeah,
we did not
rockin'
play one of
soundtracks.
them. They've made a lot of good games. We didn't play one of those.
We haven't played any of the good ones for this podcast.
Oh, I feel like there's a lot more merit to Yeast 3 than this.
Yeast 3 at least has a banging soundtrack.
You know, I'm glad you pointed that out because, okay, so we're going to continue our hot streak of actually describing the game before we start speaking in vague terms about it.
What?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I even wrote it out. I even wrote original copy for this, okay? Legacy of the Wizard, for those of you who are curious, is a Japanese PC and then a Nintendo action game with puzzle and role-playing elements. Your goal in Legacy of the Wizard is to obtain the sword Dragon Slayer and defeat a dragon. This is only accomplished by utilizing the help of all 7 members of the Drasle family, or the Verzen family, depending on if you read the credits in the North American version. ? Each member, including the dog, monster, thing, has a unique ability which you will need to leverage in order to obtain the 4 crowns hidden in a devious maze, which are needed to find the magical sword. That's Legacy of the Wizard, so let's rank it.
Oh, come on. It's not actually that bad.
It's really not. But my next bullet point here was, how is this our first Falcom game? Having completely forgotten that, yeah, we played Ace 3, which is a Falcom game, a while ago, though. So, and, you know, basically, if it was longer than like a week ago, it doesn't exist anymore for me. It's gone.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Braden put it best in saying, if I was a kid that grew up at the time where these were the video games that were coming out, I probably would have been slightly more impressed by this game. Like, it's got multiple characters. Each of those characters are very much replayable, and they play differently. It doesn't have, like, the worst level design in the world when you stop and think about it. Like, there's only, one major dungeon, and there are areas for each of the major characters, including where you have to complete the final task with Roas. And the problem is that the way that some of these characters are differentiated, and I realize I'm jumping the gun, some of these characters were more fun than others.
Yeah. There is one very quick fix I would put into this game to make it playable's too harsh a word. Far more approachable and tolerable in 2023, which is a number we can start saying now. And that is just like a click the start button and then select a different family member. Like immediately switch right there on the spot.
Oh, so you want Donkey Kong 64 with the All Kongs mod?
Yeah, basically. It would solve my main gripe with it. Not all of my gripes, but the main one.
Let's kind of talk about some of those family members, because this is the crux of the game, is that you have a single dungeon with multiple parts, and some of these parts can only be completed with specific characters.
If I was an asinine human being, I would say it's kind of like a Metroidvania.
It is kind of like a Metroidvania, but if like the parishism of like Metroidvanias are basically about funny looking keys. That's like the core mechanic of those games. But the family members are the keys, basically. And all of them live in the top right of a 16 by 16 map, basically.
Right. Well, I mean, you mentioned the keys. Remind me to talk about how much I, in quotations, loved the way the drop rate system worked in this game.
There are 7 members of the Drasle family, which, to be clear, is a Japanese ism. They like to make, I guess they're called spoon. Is this a spoonerism? Where you combine 2 words, right? It's dragon and slayer. The first like phonemes.
That is I believe a portmanteau.
A portmanteau. I didn't study English. I just use it every day to do word crime. There are 7 members of this family, including their darling pet. And they have wonderful gibberish names that we're now going to recite. We've got Hemen or Zemen. Let's go with Hemen. Let's pretend that he is
Spelled Xemn.
yes, like Jimenez, like an inquisitor from times of old. Who is the dad of this family?
He's the dad. He's a big, paunchy blob of a man. He's the green one.
Yes, he is the character who, personally, I think, really kind of makes this game rough for me because it turns the game into Sokoban. Do you know about Sokoban? You're going to hear Sokoban, also known as Shove It, the warehouse game. Chenem is married to Mena. Mena is a gendered character.
Yeah, she wears a pink thing.
She's weaker than her husband. Surprise!
Weaker than her husband, but her attack range is better.
Yeah.
And she's got good magic. She has the power to wear wings. The items will be something we'll talk about later. And she has a magic stick.
They have sired 2 children between them. One of them is named Lil, who is the daughter. She is capable of jumping high, which comes into play in this game at different times. She can also use like a pickaxe or a mattock. A pickaxe?
Mattock is what it was in my game.
Okay. Which can destroy there's different kinds of blocks in this game.
Her character class is also elf when her entire family is human.
Yeah.
Which I thought was odd.
I mean, I can solve this really quick. This game takes place in the Shadowrun universe. And it's after the Ghost Dance or whatever. So
this is a D&D rules, or no, it's basic D&D rules where elf is just a class.
Yeah.
That means fighter mage.
Yeah, they only had the red box at Nihon Falcom, so that's anyway. Their other child is Roas. Roas is kind of what I don't know, you call it the opposite of a trap character. Roas is like below replacement utility at virtually everything, except for the fact that he is the one that can wield the magic sword in the game.
And you need to have him go. Essentially, he needs to go last to finish the game. In the MSX2 version, his role is slightly expanded. It is Roas, not Lil, who can reach the shop where the shield is sold. But only if you have 2 crowns.
Hey, Chris, how much of the MSX2 version of this game did you play?
I finished Pochi because we'll talk about Pochi later. Pochi is the easiest character for a very specific reason. And then I did Lil and a little bit of Rojas, and then I got to Zemen, and then I was like, oh, this block pushing shit sucks. I played a little bit of the mother, and I thought the mother was okay, except she also needs to send blocks flying away using the hit rod.
Also, in the Drasle household, we have a grandma and a grandpa. We have Giella and Dole. Dole. Something like that. I don't have the kana in front of me. All they do is handle the save system. Grandma will give you a password. Grandpa will take a password. So they're there, but they're not really selectable. But they have utility. That leaves us to the final, and for my money, the best character in the game. It's Poochie! It's Poochie!
I'm sorry, when you say Poochie, I think of the movie Death to Poochie.
Poochie died on the way to his home Drasle. Poochie is the family's pet. It's like a dog monster thing. I'm not gonna lie, it's cute as hell. It has a unique characteristic because it's kind of a little monster. None of the monsters in the dungeon will attack Pochi, whatever. It's probably Pochi. So you can just kind of explore and scout with Pochi.
He's also really useful in terms of collecting keys and other resources for the other characters when it's their turn. A problem I had with the mother is that she's responsible for the lowest parts of the dungeon, and I would just continue to have issues of, I've reached this low part of the dungeon and they're not dropping keys. Fuck. So my solution was to play a lot of Poochie and just continue killing enemies for keys.
So, as mentioned, this is part of a series of games. First, there was a game called Dragon Slayer. Came out in 1980, like 4, I'm pretty sure. Let's say, yeah, according to the internet, 1984. On computer platforms, it eventually got a Game Boy release that is basically the same game, just crushed down into Game Boy sprites. It is about as simple a thing as you could get. I wouldn't say it's all that far removed from Tower of Druaga in some ways, but it's a little more exploratory. It's got more of a like PC game sensibility than an arcade sensibility. In that sense, it's like simultaneously nicer and way more malicious than the Tower of Druaga. It's a weird game. I wouldn't it's a curiosity these days. That was followed up by Dragon Slayer 2 Xanadu. Xanadu
is a goddamn amazing game.
Yeah, and kind of has its own lineage of like sequels, basically.
There's a chart.
Yeah, this is where you start getting into like near Wonder Boy levels of shit, basically. The main difference being Falcom kind of kept things largely in-house, and it didn't get that weird. But Xanadu launched like 1,000 ships in some sense, including, for instance, Hydelight. And, Fax Xanadu, a game that maybe you've actually heard of, unlike most of these that we've talked about. These were followed up by Dragon Slayer Jr., Sorcerian, which is considered the third Dragon Slayer game. Not Sorcerian, Romancia, my bad. Romancia is basically a like really they was targeted towards a younger audience. It's a game that has a hard 30-minute time limit for you to like get through all of the content in it, and it was designed to be that long. I've not played Romancia. That's my confession for you. And then this comes out. The jump in scale between Romancia and Drasle Family is actually kind of insane, because this game is actually pretty big.
Right.
It's like, so the map itself, it's one contiguous dungeon space is what this game takes place in. And if you were to take every screen of this game as you play it on a Nintendo Entertainment System, it is 16 by 16 screens across and wide, which is pretty big. And that's kind of big for an MSX2 game in some sense. But in some sense it's not, because another game came out on the MSX2 the same year called Elite. And Elite is the biggest game there is. So, and also has like, three-dimensional space and like, a gajillion planets and all sorts of shit. Elite's really nuts. I kind of wish I could get away with us playing it, because it's not really an RPG. But Elite's really fucking cool.
Off the space end.
Yeah, we just history. Yeah, all video games with space. We start with Ultima 2.
But here's the thing: we can't play Elite. If we did a Space Sim podcast, we'd be playing fucking Privateer 2 and Inca.
Masters of Orion or Masters of Orion.
Please let us play Masters of Orion, please. We've been so
good. That's a 4X.
I love Masters of Orion.
Master of Orion 2 was...
But Braden, there's the whole part where you have the hero units, and the hero units have their own stats that you level up, and they come and save your butt. Hey,
does that mean we have to play Warcraft 3?
Technically, kind of, yeah. Hey, Jeff, does the Elite franchise have like some sort of long progeny in Japan, like wizardry, as like it had an impression in Japan that we maybe don't appreciate?
No, it's
here?
Kind of the same. I don't even know if like Frontier came out in Japan. I bet it did. I bet Frontier came out in Japan. I mean, Frontier came out on DOS, so like it was in Japan. But I don't think it came out on like the PC 98 or something. I guess I don't know though. But yeah, can't speak to that. Can speak to more Legacy of the Wizard. As mentioned, large maze, multiple characters. You can only play one of them at a time. This game basically turns into you sort of picking a character based on the one that looks coolest at the time on boot, progressing through the dungeon as far as you can with that character, then kind of making the trek back and swapping out, and then repeat, and then repeat, doing basically little sorties through this large dungeon with infinitely respawning mooks who are manageable for the most part. It's just kind of turns into a grind after a while. And by a while, I mean like, half an hour. And that would kind of be enough for me, honestly. Like, it will shock the audience to hear that I did not finish this game. But I get the sense that neither of you did either. So, I dunk on that.
Jeff, I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
I played this game for about 2 hours.
You got 2 hours in. Okay.
I got 2 hours in. I did the thing where I'm like, oh, I need to go back and pick a different character, huh?
Yep.
And then I went back and picked another character, and I got down there, and then I fucking died. And I'm like, I should have made a save state on my real NES that I played this on.
So what versions did we all play? I think I made it clear. I played the MSX2 version. Hey, dude, like, people don't understand. Like, the MSX was a big goddamn
Jeff Gerstmann
deal.
over here playing Japanese computer games.
The MSX was a big deal in Japan. Like,
Yeah.
and it was also this, like, cross-cultural project. Like, it was ASCII Corp and Microsoft coming together to make a computer for Japan. And it ran Microsoft Extended Basic, which some people believe is where the name came from, but it's actually ambiguous if that was the actual source of the name.
Yeah.
But like the MSX also it came out briefly before the Famicom, and like Hudson and Konami became staples because of the MSX.
Yeah.
Like before the Famicom really took off. Like that platform basically sold an entire generation on video games.
Konami did cool things
Japan.
on there too. Like the games, generally speaking, ran on cartridges on the MSX, and an MSX had 2 cartridge ports on the side, which is already kind of weird. But Konami would do stuff where their games would actually sort of communicate with each other, for lack of a better word. Like, they would have an awareness, like if you had, oh god, that Penguin Arctic Adventure game in a slot, and then you put, the fucking Castlevania game that came out on, like, it would be aware of these things, and it would give little bonuses or make little tunes, like just cool little thoughtful shit, like the Goonies and stuff. And the licensing was really cheap, so Konami really, really liked that platform because they have kind of always been some thrifty bastards over there. So, lots of good stuff from them and Hudson, as you mentioned, and then Nihon Falcom. Just if you were making computer games in Japan at the time, you were putting stuff out on an NEC platform of some stripe, your PC-88 line, and then generally the MSX. And then if you were really, 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 really baller, you would also go out on like the FM7 or like the Sharp X1 or the Sword M5 or like one of, a half a dozen like also rans, basically.
Yeah, let's talk about the FM towns, Jeff.
Also, the MSX had like distribution in like the Arab world, basically. Like, it was big in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and parts of Europe, Eastern Europe specifically.
It was another one of those weird things that was a product that was developed and conceived in Japan, but like did shockingly well in Brazil.
Yeah.
Like the Master System.
So, yeah, the MSX is neat. And some of those games have been compiled elsewhere. I think there's a couple MSX collection discs that came out in like the Saturn PS1 era. Nowadays, obviously, all these just run in like relatively easy to use emulators. So yeah, it's a whole platform worth poking around if you're curious about that part of Japanese computer history. I did not play the MSX version of this game. I've played the North American. So I'm going to say
this version of the game.
I am looking at the NES copy of Legacy of the Wizard that's on my shelf. This is one of those games that you may have picked up that we're not exactly in love with it, but it's like big enough and like not bad enough to be like abjectly terrible, which puts us in this really neat crease where it's available in a lot of like used game shops and also not that expensive. I think I picked up this copy of this game for like $7. And that's, again, there's like a fair amount of content in here. Like I've spent worse $7 than that in this hobby. So I have that version. I have the Namco Drasle family cartridge for the Famicom on my end label Famicom collection over here. I have the copy of it on my PS Portable, which was the one I actually played. And then I wound up picking up on sale one of the Namcot collections that Bandai Namco has published recently, which are collections of a couple old NES/Famicom games. And Legacy of the Wizard is on one of those, which is really nuts. But they published it in Japan, and I guess they're cool enough with Nihon Falcom still, or wrote that crazy of a deal, that they were able to pull that off. So, yeah, this game is, like, legally out there and available. I guess it's also up on Egg. I bet it's on Egg. That weird, like, PC 88 digital distribution platform that's up in Japan.
Yeah.
Egg.
Egg. Capital E. Capital G. Capital G.
The Eggman?
Not the Eggman. Though there might be a man on there. I have pulled up the Wikipedia article. It doesn't say if it's on Egg. Some of these just specifically will say, like, it's available on Egg. It's an old PC game plan. It's kind of like GOG, but in Japan. And for games that ain't recognize Windows. There you go. That's my description of Egg.
And it's slightly more defensible than the works of Hamster.
Yes, but only slightly.
Only slightly, maybe half a centimeter.
Hydlide is definitely on Egg. There you go. That's another game I was like, there's got to be something else we can
Oh, no.
Just in case you wanted another way to play Hydlide. Yeah, Legacy of the Wizard is neat. I don't know if it's, like, great, and I'm not sure if it's good, but it is neat. There's cool sprites. Like I said, the Pochi sprite is neat. I like the little cat enemies in this game a lot. Like, I think they could have probably made some hay on, like, the cute little cat enemy merchandise, especially now, for reasons. But yeah, Brayden, I played maybe another, like, hour after you, but after, like, the third time I had to make the trek back up to the house to, like, swap a character out, I was pretty well checked out.
This game made me realize that my basic level of tolerance for certain things of, let's say, the NES and SNES era that I would have been more willing to tolerate when I was younger, I just cannot anymore.
Yeah.
And part of that is on me for not using the tools available on my real NES that I definitely played this on.
It definitely reminds me of the death march that we always talk about and complain about with early Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
That sense of, I could go forward and open this next door, but god damn it, I'm pretty close to dying and needing to redo everything if you aren't using save states, which you should. As Jeff always says at the end, there's no such thing as cheating in single-player games. Like, there's a lot, like you said, like, I think the enemy sprites are really good. I also really enjoyed some of the more weird and wacky level designs. There's that part of the dungeon that's a human face, and then you have to avoid falling into the teeth, which is actually a really annoying part because of invisible blocks. But, like, the color palette changes in the dungeon are really creative and interesting and kind of fun.
There's, like, cool music stuff, too, in this game.
There is good music.
And, like, the music, I'll admit, I don't remember the source of this online, but when I saw someone write this out, it made a stunning amount of sense. But, like, the music kind of... each character basically has a theme, and each area kind of will, in a leitmotif-esque manner, switch over to that character's little leitmotif, as if to clue you in, like, hey, if you don't know what to be doing here, you probably need to switch to the character who's kind of got this little tune associated with them. You get some hints of, like, what you kind of be doing. I wouldn't say that you're necessarily, like, lost in this game getting around. It's just kind of a pain in the ass to navigate a map that is this big, that you're expected to basically navigate all the way through and then back out of several times. Like, repeating... like, a bad thing is happening in a video game when you're kind of made to, like, repeat an action in general. I think when you're asking players to do things like 2 or 3 times, you need to have a very good reason why you're doing that. And in this game, you basically cover the same ground dozens of times potentially, and it just gets very, very old, especially when you're getting harried the entire time.
Yeah, and just a lot of the era level design or anti-player design, like you fell down too far step, now you're going to take half your health. Oh wait, you have less of that health remaining, you're just dead.
Yeah. And you can soft lock yourself too, actually. It happened to me once during my play, in fact.
Yeah, so
and it's the worst.
There are a couple of exploits.
It made me miss Zelda too.
There are a couple of exploits, like you can prevent fall damage if you just keep pressing start to bring up the inventory screen, and then press it again to return to the game, because the game will calculate the fall damage at the start of this new restart. So if you just keep pressing the start button over and over again, you can prevent yourself from taking falling damage.
Interesting.
Which was really helpful, especially when you go to that pit with the giant dragon that's just locked away, which was cool that they introduced like the crux of the game pretty early.
It's kind of Breath of the Wild-esque, God help me for making that comparison, but like you see the end goal of this game like immediately. Like eventually I'm going to open this thing up and fight that dragon, right? Like that's a neat idea, but
I mean, it's a game that has a lot of neat ideas that doesn't necessarily know how to tie it all together. Or maybe we've all reached the stage where this kind of game just doesn't cut it. I remember when I talked, gentlemen, when we did the Might and Magic thing, and I said, and I've written about this on multiple occasions. Sometimes you play that game of how far back can you go with a franchise, developer, or series before you stop having a fun time. And I think we've gone back far enough to where we're not having a good time anymore. Because
it's a shame.
When you compare this game to its contemporaries or like what was coming out at the time, like nothing that it does is especially heinous or like out of the ordinary. It's just, I hate to say it, it's of an era.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that there's another Falcom game which came out in 1987 that I feel like we'd have a better time with. It's Ys. It's the first Ys game.
I think even when you look at stuff that was coming out in North America at the time, like according to the sole arbiter of truth in the 21st century, Jim Wales and his Wikipedia website, Legacy of the Wizard came out in North America the same month as a game called The Guardian Legend, which is also published by Bruderbund, actually. The Guardian Legend smokes this game. It makes it look like pee-pee poo-poo diaper stuff. It's incredible. I love The Guardian Legend. I think we should play The Guardian Legend. Also made by noted Japanese PC publisher company Compile. Guardian Legend rules. Looking at these two games back, like, you know, if I'm in the rental store in like May 1989 and I see these two side by side, I'm probably a shitty boy and I get the one that doesn't have like a girl on it, so I probably wind up with the Legacy of the Wizard. But my friend who picked up the Guardian Legend is probably like, yo, you need to check this thing out. It's basically Zelda, but you're a robot and also has like shooting levels in it. And I go, holy shit, I've been wandering around in mazes playing that box pushing game. Did I mention how much box pushing is in this game?
Okay, so let's talk about the single mechanic that I think all three of us hated. So there comes the point where, especially you play some of the non-Poochie, well, even with Poochie, you encounter these weird blocks that block pathways and you can't get past them. And then you find the power gloves. Yeah. And this leads to Zemin, who is a powerful man, a very powerful man. He's tied with Poochie with attack power, except he has longer range, but they have the same jump height. So because his sprite is a little fatter, chubbier, let's say, he's more swole, I think, as the kids on the block are saying.
He can't jump as high.
I think Hemin is who you would describe as thick.
Thick, right.
Thick.
So he can use the power boots and armor as well, which makes him slightly more utilitarian than Poochie. But you have to use his gloves to manipulate blocks so as that you can get through certain parts of the labyrinth. Problem is that the way you control this sucks absolute dog shit. Like, it is genuinely not fun. And I don't know if it was like, I'm under the impression that this part of the game was not fun even on a standard controller at the time.
Yeah, the things that they want you to do, like as soon as this game starts asking you to like surf across like empty space on a block that you are jumping and pushing and then landing on and then jumping and doing this ridiculous little dance. Ugh, yeah, terrible.
It kind of reminds me of when JRPGs or even CRPGs, you know what this reminded me of? It reminded me of, and Braden will get this, it reminded me of the platforming sequences in Ultima 8.
I know what you were talking about, and yes.
It's got a very fiddly nature, it's very punishing, and there's that moment where you realize, oh, I just fucked myself, didn't I?
Yeah.
Fuck.
And that's beyond the fact that when you're not doing this block surfing thing, you are just genuinely asked to do Sokoban puzzles, which are like I don't want to like patronize people, but like if you've ever played or seen those games where it's literally just like there's like a maze with 4 boxes in it, and you need to push all of those boxes onto some like highlighted spaces in the maze. And it's very easy to, get a box stuck or get yourself stuck, and you can't pull, you can only push. So generally you'll play one of those Sokoban puzzles, get to a point where it's like, shit, I got my dick stuck in the oatmeal, I can't get it, we're screwed. And it's just cool.
This is the worst Zelda dungeon
ever.
Yeah,
just there's like a hit F5 or something to reset this maze and do it. You can solve it in 5 seconds once you know what you're doing. This game, there's not really like a just hit F5. There's like a walk out of the space and walk back into it. Hopefully you didn't block the exit while you screwed up the Sokoban puzzle. And there's a lot of it. I'm not saying that I'm incapable of solving box shoving puzzles. I've played video games for going on 30 years. I've had a couple thrown at me.
Here's my problem. Here's my fundamental problem with how this works. A Sokoban puzzle is normally a top-down perspective.
Yeah.
This game is a side perspective, which means that judging where you need to push the blocks or kind of like the space that you have, or even doing the very necessary, for the later portions of the dungeon, the very necessary movement of pushing blocks diagonally is absolutely just untenable. Just completely and totally untenable.
Yeah. When you add the fact that you are in a space with gravity moving you down, as opposed to, just like walking on, I guess, what would be like the rear wall of these dungeons. Yeah, it's not my favorite part. In fact, it's my least favorite part. Next to the walk out of the dungeon, followed closely by the walk back into the dungeon. It just kind of sucks, right? The game doesn't necessarily suck. I feel kind of bad because I can almost get my head around just like, it's a 35-year-old, like I said, sort of action, puzzle, adventure, exploratory, proto whip-sploring genre thing. Like, all kind of neat. It's just, as soon as it asks you to, like, spelunk through the same territory, like, the 3rd time, really starts to wear out its welcome for me. And it's a shame.
Is this worse than Spelunker?
No, not even close.
No.
Not even in the same universe.
No, it's not. I just wanted to mention
Spelunker is too hot for any of us.
I mean, Spelunker is a legitimate bad game Hall of Fame entry.
Yeah, it's a Kusoge legend.
Yeah, it's an all-time legend.
In some sense, I might even take it, because at least it's fair. Like, Spelunker you can finish in, 5 minutes, right? You need to execute perfectly. That's the problem. But, very doable. And Spelunker doesn't ask you to double back on territory over and over again, whereas this game asks you to double back on territory at a minimum 5 times. And that's if you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. I strongly recommend the Bad Game Hall of Fame write-up for Spelunker. It's an all-time great.
Very good.
Very, very good stuff. But also, Spelunker. God, that piece of shit. Not an RPG.
Not an RPG. No, it's a...
We don't need to deal with it.
Tell you what, though,
we don't need to...
if those cool kids out there that like Spelunky, check out Spelunker. You might have a laugh. Just maybe.
That's like asking Forza Horizon players to play big rigs, Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, there's that HD version that came out on at least the PS3. I think there's a PS4 version of that. I think. It's got multiplayer in it. It's really fucking weird. I'm kind of inclined to just rank this. I don't know what else there is to say, honestly. Like,
it's a game
we're all
that
a bunch of babies.
It has a lot of ideas. It really there are so few traditional JRPGs that play like this, and there might be a reason for this. It's kind of like when I watch this chess historian, and he says we're in the 1800s, and then like by move 6. He'll sometimes say, this is Agdamator, he'll say, and now we've reached a position that in competitive chess has never been reached before. And he'll even look to the camera and say, for good reason. And it's kind of like, yeah, this game, they don't play like this anymore, huh? Or they didn't make anything. Like, Falcom didn't go back to this well and like be like, oh yeah, you know what we need to fucking do and bring back? Family members exploring the same single malice-filled dungeon. Like, I mean, you could say that they made a game or two, but like this is something that like even the Dragon Slayer game, like Sorcerian, for example, is like, yeah, let's not. Okay, lesson learned. Lesson learned.
Lessons learned. They made a game called Star Trader. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. This is a bad Wikipedia thing because Star Trader is like a 70s. Like Star Trader is like proto Elite, but it was like a terminal game. Like Star Trader in my head is like that Trek game in like the BSD games package. Is that all this is? Did this just get published as is? Several unrelated but similar space trading games have been released under the name Star Trader. Okay. Yeah, that would be really weird because that's like, anyway, just looking down this list of stuff, and yeah, they not long after this, like you said, they get into making games like Ys and, you know, Popful Mail. They start buttering their bread elsewhere.
Yeah, it's not like this was made by a bad team that doesn't know how to make good games, right?
No, not even close. I think this was a noble experiment, trying something out. There's a non-zero chance that they looked at Metroid when they made this. Honestly, the timeline lines up. That came out in 1986. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Let's put this on the list. Let us be done with the Drasle family, the Family Drasle. I'm gonna open up a list. It's at bit.ly/OOTDE rank, the bit.ly/OTDE rank, and we're gonna put it on here. I'm gonna open the bid. We're gonna start in the midpoint of this list, which is oddly enough another Nihon Falcom game right now. How do we feel about this versus Ys 3, Wanderers from Ys?
I would rather play Ys 3.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
Absolutely.
I don't think we need to go storming too much farther down this list, though. But let's, for argument's sake, say Jade Empire, which is number 25.
Man.
Yeah, you see? Like, I don't think this goes that much farther.
Boy. So we were all capable of finishing Jade Empire.
True. I don't know if
like the worst. Is Orientalism worse than block puzzles?
I don't know if I'm proud of the statement that you just made, but it is a true one.
There's the 1942 clone minigame that you have to do whenever you travel from one location to the next. Jade Empire is easily broken.
Okay, here's a better comparison. Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link.
I would rather play Zelda 2.
Okay. I think I would too. I don't think Zelda 2 asks you to double back nearly as much. And that's a game that starts you in the same spot on the world map every time you die. And it still bothers me less. You know, getting around in Zelda 2 is faster than this game too, which feels insane. Okay, moving down there. Next we've got Tales of Game Studios presents Jeff, etc. Barclay Gaiden.
This game is not as problematic as Barclay.
No. Tell you what, I laughed more at Barclay at the time, though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I was 15 once.
I actually like the mechanics of Barclay, where it's kind of like Chrono Trigger. Each character plays differently.
That game is too smart for its own good sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That game.
Somewhere, okay, on either side of that, maybe, because below that we have the Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, like the console.
Oh,
version.
the line of mediocrity.
The famous.
Yeah, and I think, I feel like we've always had a hard time with the line of mediocrity with older games. It would feel really bad putting this below the line of mediocrity.
Yeah.
Considering when it came out and the
It's
resources
doing
they
stuff.
had it.
It's not failing
and
to
it
execute
did
on that stuff.
The stuff's
It
just
had
not very good.
ideas.
Okay, I mean, this is just me reading the list at this point, but below that is Quest 64.
I think it goes above Quest 64.
That seems like a
Yeah.
good floor.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think the Third Age might actually go above it too. I think it goes between Quest and Third Age. Third Age is shockingly mediocre, but
nah.
No.
Workmanlike. I like workmanlike.
From the people who would go on to make the Callisto Protocol.
It definitely does make you evil mode.
Lord of the
makes
Rings,
you go
the
back.
Third
I mean, it
Age.
makes you go back just during the regular game too, a couple times. And even if it doesn't, that fucking slog through Moria of just same color,
Yeah,
We
and
had
I don't think that
levels from the Two Towers game, and by golly, we're using it.
Yeah, and there's no the skeleton fan fell down and now I'm in the movie moment in this game. It's just I played this game for 5 to 6 hours. I didn't feel like I got a lot out of it. And here's the most damning thing. I don't feel like I had developed a better understanding of what was going on with Falcom as a company, even during this time, because, the games they were making outside of this one were not this and better.
Okay. I want to put this between Lord of the Rings: The Third Age and Quest 64.
I'm fine with this.
I approve.
That is where
Thanks,
this will live.
Doyle.
Thanks, Doyle.
I'm actually happy that we got something say what you will, we're getting some obscure, genuine off the deep ends. Stop and think about it. The main podcast is never playing this game.
No.
We did a service.
For all of you out there with your misters going through every single NES game and playing them for 5 minutes, you too at home can know. You people with your fucking Steam Decks, laying in bed, playing video games in your bed like a fucking savage.
Yep.
Going through your emulators on your Steam Deck.
You went.
Be glad to know that Legacy of the Wizard is probably not something you need to play.
It's funny to imagine that there are people who would buy a Steam Deck and then buy those NES compilations that are available on Steam so they could play those games.
Especially when Steam now has a version of RetroArch that's right there.
Yeah. I understand.
And say what you will about RetroArch and its compromises, which they made even more compromises to be on Steam, but
yeah, you do you, right? Live your truth. That is the end of the regular episode. However, we realize this one's kind of short, but I think we have something to chum the masses.
I have
here.
a stupid thing.
I cede the
I have
floor.
a stupid thing, Jeff.
Show us.
All right, I've decided to pick our next game using the power of everyone's favorite RPG character creation tool, the quiz.
Okay.
what?
You know how in the Elder Scrolls games, the earlier ones, I believe this went all the way up to Morrowind, there you could just pick your class, you could create a class, or you could answer a series of questions that determine what kind of class you pick.
Yes.
What if we did that?
Okay.
I trust you.
How do you feel about alignment charts?
I hate them.
I have 9 games on this list. 3 by 3.
At what point do you switch me from chaotic neutral to chaotic evil?
The threshold shall be 3 by 3.
Is this going to be compatible with... okay.
Law, chaos, good and evil.
Before we continue, is this going to be compatible with the old version of the open game license or the new version? because I just don't want to get a
Oh,
suit.
oh, don't worry. Listen, if Wizards of the
Do you
Coast,
have to just call it like law-abidingly good?
law-abidingly moral.
Morally dubiously malicious.
Law-breakingly indifferent.
Okay.
All right, ahem. And this is a question right from the Elder Scrolls Arena. While in town, the baker gives you a sweet roll. Delighted, you take it into an alley to enjoy, only to be intercepted by a gang of 3 other kids your age. The leader demands a sweet roll, or else he and his friends will beat you and take it. Do you A. Drop the sweet roll and step on it, then get ready for the fight? B. Give him the sweet roll now without argument, knowing that later this afternoon you will have all your friends with you and can come and take whatever he owes you? Or C. Act like you're going to give him the sweet roll, but at the last moment throw it in the air, hoping that they'll pay attention to it long enough for you to get a shot in on the leader.
Chris, I cede the floor.
I don't want to be. I'm fucking not gonna pick the one. My original gut reaction is, oh, well, I'll be the passive guy. Like, let them take it, and then I'll come back with my friends. But my logic there is, what if they're not there and they're gone? So, I will go with the last option because I think it's funny. Jeff?
Yeah. Yes, that.
All right. Ahem. Here's a free response question. Your friend threatens to unleash a year of torture if you don't vote for her favored candidate during your Game of the Year podcast. How do you respond?
You can't hurt me any more than I've already hurt myself.
I'm a broken person. Like, I would just show this person, like, hey, let me show you 9 Men's Morris in Drowned God. Or a Morse code puzzle in Drowned God. Or I would just show them the second 2 hours of my Starship Titanic stream and say, I'm already busted. There's nothing you can subject to me that causes me to feel anything anymore.
All right. You'll find a chest in a dungeon containing a single valuable gem among a pile of silver and copper. Your companions and hirelings haven't seen what's inside the chest yet. You could take it without anyone knowing. How do you split the loot?
Well, I'm in the Deep Listens family, so, for each according to their needs.
I say standard, even distribution, but the captain or the leader gets, like, a small tax and a little bit more.
All right. Your favorite collectible card game has become increasingly exploitative as time has gone on, including absurd limited edition releases known as Hidden Abodes. This is the card game your friends play. How do you respond?
I move on. My friends are sick. I need to go through rehabilitation and move on. And hey, it's for a different group now. That's fine.
I turn into a deviant and start playing Vampire: The Eternal Struggle to the exclusion of all other card games.
Okay.
Oh, no, yeah, I replace it with Arkham, the trading card game.
Yes.
Okay.
Arkham Horror.
All right. A wise man once said, there's no such thing as cheating in a single-player game. Is he right?
No. Yes? No.
Yes.
Yes.
Unwaveringly, while saying it cross-eyed, yes.
All right. Your party encounters an old drunkard on the side of the road, offering to trade information for money. The paladin says he's going to spend it all on booze, and you should bring him to a hospice instead. The thief in your party says that new information would be useful. Who do you agree with?
Jeff, you go first.
I don't know. I'm all about people making the best choices that they need for themselves, right?
Yep, this is the... Okay.
So you're going to go libertarian?
Support freedom, let's
yeah,
say?
I mean, I would support freedom as well. Me, as a person.
All right. Can't help but notice a trend.
Oh, a good one, or a bad one, or a neutral one? Wait, don't tell me the answer to that. All right. I'm excited.
All right.
I'm invested.
Yes. On your friend's podcast, someone has said Valdis Story Abyssal City is the greatest game of 2015. How do you correct this error?
Filibustering and making sure that Undertale wins. Out of principle.
I'm pulling up a list of 2015 games. I say, well, clearly the majority rules would indicate that Grand Theft Auto 5, being the best-selling game of all time, is probably the best game of 2015. Yeah, that's a good basis for this. I liked the Swapper from that year.
Oh wait, that's the year of Bloodborne, huh?
It is the year of Bloodborne.
And Mortal Kombat X? Oh, no, wait. No, I would have voted for Pillars of Eternity.
Witcher 3?
Your podcast didn't play Pillars of Eternity.
I think it was Undertale and that, right?
Yes, it was Undertale and Valdis Story.
Yeah, I'd vote for Undertale.
I would also vote for
That's
Undertale.
okay. Pete doesn't listen to these.
We love you, Pete. Hopefully we'll have you on at some point to play Fire Emblem.
To play a grinding game.
With that, no one on this podcast is
Billy.
going to take the time to finish.
Wait, was it Billy? Was it Billy who was
It was Billy.
the grind father himself? Okay. Yeah.
Spirit animal to Jeff.
All right. Let's see. Who is the best girl in Neon Genesis Evangelion?
They're all teenagers, and answering that question is innately weird and gross. Even though the commercialization of Evangelion has made it inevitable. Also, Asuka.
Yeah, I don't really like the premise of this question at all.
That's also an answer.
Also, Asuka. You know what? Fuck that. It's actually Misato.
Nah.
All right. What is the best first-person shooter of 1997? As you can see, I've made a very good series of morality quizzes.
I mean, it's not GoldenEye, but I'm trying to think of if Quake 2... Quake 2
Quake
came
2
out
was
in
97.
97. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Blood
Quake
was
2.
also 97.
As
was Shadow Warrior.
Shadow
I
Warrior
believe.
Classic.
Yeah, it's Quake 2.
It's Quake 2.
All right. One
Sure.
might say that was a lawful answer.
But it's not GoldenEye, Jeff.
No, it's not GoldenEye.
All right. I think we are up to...
You know what? Just to... I was going to say, what if I went with Duke Nukem 64?
The N6... I mean, that is an evil choice.
That's the evil choice?
Yes. Or the N64 port of Hexen.
Or the N60... or Turok.
Whoa.
Turok's N64.
Turok Dinosaur Hunter was 96.
Oh, shit. Alright, no.
Hexen with that awful controller. Jesus Christ.
Hexen is already a bad time.
Yeah.
People are really nostalgic of Hexen, though.
Those people are fucking wrong.
Yeah, people like GoldenEye, too.
Hexen is boring as shit. It's Find the Switch. It's a game where you literally
Jeff,
just go through levels and look for a switch that you missed.
I think as a kid, I played like half of the GoldenEye levels, but I played a lot of the split-screen multiplayer mode of GoldenEye.
Yeah, I did too. I was a dumb kid.
All right.
How close are we to the final solution here? That's a bad choice of words.
There are only two more questions.
That's it.
Sorry.
Yeah, Jeff. You wanna double back on
How
that?
close are we to the ultimate finding?
The ultimate finding?
The ultimate showdown?
How close are we to the sounding of
Gary
this one?
Gygax said that technically murdering orc babies was okay for a paladin to do, as orcs were inherently evil creatures.
Yeah, Gary Gygax.
Is this statement true, false, or questionable?
Well, Braden, not 24 hours ago, I was holding in my hand my copy of Role-Playing Mastery by Gary Gygax, which I just looked up. The cover says, Role-Playing Mastery, tips, tactics, and strategies for improving your participation in any role-playing game by one of the people who started it all, Gary Gygax, co-creator the Dungeons & Dragons game, a federated trademark of TSR. Yeah, that's fucking ridiculous.
Disgusting. As someone who is of Asian descent, let's just say that Gary Gygax's certain, let's say, serpent-based people was also not good.
Okay.
He was very fond of, like, Fu Manchu.
Yeah, a lot of Fu
too,
Manchu.
Yeah. Very,
all right. Well, according
scummy.
to Gygax, that's an evil choice you've made.
I don't want to be good.
All right, and the final question: you find yourself in front of a trolley, in front of a track with 5 kobolds tied to it. You can pull the lever and instead run over 1 half-orc. How do you respond to this conundrum in the least racist way possible?
Don't intervene.
All right, that's a point towards neutrality.
Hop on the trolley and ride it. Close your eyes and see what happens.
All right,
But
that's a
start-
point towards chaos.
But start doing the major killjoy Doctor Strangelove thing. Yeehaw!
All right, that solves the important. The wise old man has finished looking at his tarot cards. The old guy in Fallout has finished administering you a quiz. The racist
Imperial guy at the desk.
the racist Romani caricature from Ultima has determined your value of choice. So, ZP, you ended up on chaotic evil.
Hell yeah.
Jeff,
I like
you
to have
ended
a
up
good
on
time.
chaotic neutral.
Great. My least favorite Ugh, horrible.
That means that Jeff could be a drow based off of original rule sets, right?
Yeah, and he can
Chaotic
use
neutral.
2 scimitars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. That's
So,
I love Drist.
based
I
on
love
these
him.
2, the games I've picked for these 2 alignments are pretty good. So, of those 2, which would you rather pick?
I'm waiting with bated breath.
All right. So the choice for chaotic neutral in this very important, very stupid alignment chart is Wizards and Warriors parentheses 2000 close parentheses.
Oh god.
The choice for chaotic evil is Pool of Radiance, Ruins of Myth.
Oh god. That's the one that kills your computer, right?
That's the one that kills your computer if you uninstall it
You know
without
what?
patching it first.
I have an ancient laptop that I might just see if it will kill the laptop.
You should patch it.
I'm gonna see if it actually kills the laptop. See, other than that horrible glitch, like Pool of Radiance is just a buggy kind of not so good time. But like when you, okay, for Pool of Radiance, Ruins of Myth Draenor, we're allowed to do the fan patches.
I don't know if there are fan patches.
I know there's a patch that removes the kills your computer thing.
Yeah, that's an official patch.
I know significantly less about Wizards and Warriors. Jeff?
I mean, okay.
Just so you know, there was at least one East game on this list.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. Okay,
Don't
and this
spoil it.
How? God help me! I'm going to ask this question. How easy is it to run either of these on Linux?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Wizards? Jeff, I will say
Jeff,
this.
if we want a game you could play on your television while cuddling with your wife on the couch.
No.
I can't guarantee that it works on Linux, but I know for a fact that Wizards and Warriors 2000 doesn't have a GOG port.
It does.
Okay.
And the GOG version runs straight out of the box.
Yeah.
Pool of Radiance does not, and we would have to go
do
through things.
I have a plan for Pools of Radiance. Myth Draenor.
But I think it would be very funny if Pool of Radiance was the first D&D. Ruins of Myth Draenor was the first D&D game we played for this podcast.
Yeah, on that basis alone, I'm kind of in favor
All right,
of
I'll
it.
go with Jeff.
All
Support
right.
Jeff.
Chris, you always
hate
complain
this.
that all the games I pick are the highest ranked ones. Well, I have great news. I guess our next game is going to be Pool of Radiance, Ruins of Myth Draenor, part of Ubisoft's very, very, very brief time with the D&D license.
Also, to anyone who is going to possibly join us in playing this game,
Cannot
emphasize enough that if you decide to go on a certain Canadian website that has a CD-ROM digital image, it is critical. It is critical that you patch the game because it will delete system files on your computer, which then will bork your entire hardware or your system, whether it's a desktop or a laptop. So
it runs a C delete C/system32/star for some reason, just baked into the command. It's really fun. Yeah. Yuck. Okay, well, that's what we're going to do then, I guess. Yay.
Yay, it's from your friends and mine at Stormfront Studios.
Yeah, so be sure to pick up Pools of Radiance, Realms of Myth Draenor on Steam, and we'll get back to you in a couple weeks. That's it for this episode.
Yeah, they also made, they worked on Gateway to the Savage Frontier. Okay, so that, and also Forgotten Realms Demon Stones, so this was not their first time making a D&D game.
Yeah.
Weird. That Demon Stone game.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's cap this one off. Thanks for tuning in Off the Deep End, folks. We're excited to talk about busted Dungeons and Dragons games in a couple weeks. In the meantime, if you'd like to warn us, if you'd like to be the giant man from Twin Peaks, waving your arms back and forth as if to say no, you can do that in our Discord. You can get there by kicking in any dollar amount to patreon.com/deeplistens. As mentioned, if you'd like to recommend games to us, you can sub to that Patreon at the $3 level. We will check. Patreon.com/deeplistens. Special shout out to Supersex420, a musician who provided us with the music that is called Halfway, which is playing probably right now. You can listen to it and other great tracks by Supersex420 on the Bandcamp of Supersex420. Search for it. It's in your search browser. You use your internet window and you get there. See you next time, and remember, there's no such thing as cheating in a single-player game, particularly the next one we're playing, seeing as you need fan patches to keep it from literally deleting system files in your Windows install.
Was that sentence neutral, chaotic, or lawful, Brayden?
Alignment isn't real.
God bless.
And